Hi, my name is Jane. For today's video, I am going to share a mega unhaul of books. Why am I calling this a mega unhaul? It's because over the past year and a half, maybe, there have been two other instances where I took books off of my shelves during a anxious, I need to Marie Kondo my bedroom, I need to get everything out of my room funk time. I don't know where I was going with this. So I would take off books and then I filmed some stuff, but then I never recorded, I never like edited and posted those videos, so I thought I would just combine those videos into one, and then I have more books that I am going to be unhauling with you today. So why don't we go ahead and jump into the first one. The first book that I'm taking off my bookshelf is This Is Where It Ends. I really wanted to like this book. It's about this high school where a shooting happens, and it kind of tells the story from a couple of different points of view in the span of 54 minutes of like when it was all happening. I really wanted to like it. I just had really conflicting thoughts about how the story was told, about how the characters are, and just kind of like their backstories. It was all a little bit too much for me, and I really wanted the story to be told a little bit differently. I did like, as far as like the characters go. So, not my favorite. Next book I'm taking off is My Last Kiss. The characters were very annoying. I could not relate to any of the characters. I didn't like how they were acting. The story is about this girl, Cassidy, who dies during her birthday party, or someone's birthday party, I don't even remember. And they all deem it a suicide, but we kind of dive more into what happened that night and the situations leading up to that night, and figure out, was it a suicide? Was it not? And it's kind of like her out of body, like she's in the world, but she's not able to. It was all, well, I even forgot what was going on in this book, and I think that's a big issue if you can't remember what was happening in the entire book. Hi. Next book I'm taking off is The Look of Love. I am a big fan of like romance stories told in different ways, and this was just not a fun one for me. It felt very like Hallmarky, Lifetimey movie sort of thing, where it's just about like and love and like generic trials and tribulations of things. It is about a girl named Jane, who can look at people and see different kinds of love. And premise, fine, whatever. Like, I picked it up. I bought the book, so the premise kind of hooked me in. But the way that it was told was so excruciating, and it was told from like first person point of view of Jane, and then it would switch to like the different other couples and characters, but told in third person. And I just can't handle that switch, that flip in perspectives. It felt kind of like unsettling, or not unsettling, but jarring, where like I would go from one perspective to another perspective, and I'm like, whoa, wait, what happened over here? And all of the characters just felt like one character, and I couldn't differentiate between all of them. They felt very generic and normal. Was really hoping for more out of this one. The next book I'm taking off my shelf is Why We Broke Up. Now, a lot of people really liked this book, but I could not get through it. Maybe I just didn't understand it properly, but I couldn't get into the relationship. I couldn't understand why they were with each other in the first place. It just, I couldn't get hooked into the relationship, and I feel like if I'm trying to figure out or like I'm trying to read about their relationship and why they broke up, I feel like I should be invested in their relationship, but I was not. Next book I'm taking off my shelf is Heaven is for Real. I actually really liked this book. I thought that the pacing was great, and it's a fairly short and quick read if that's what you're looking for. If you're trying to meet a goal of like 50 books in a year, short books are just amazing. But it's also not the kind of book that I would reread, so I am taking it off my bookshelf. I didn't even say what the book was about. They made this into a movie. I didn't watch the movie. But it's about this little kid who like makes this miraculous recovery, and when he wakes up he starts to talk about like family members in heaven and about meeting God. Again, they made this into a movie. If anyone's watched it, let me know if it's good. Maybe I'll watch it. The next book I'm taking off my shelf is Blood Roses, and this is a collection of short stories. My God. When I finally finished this book, first of all, every like short story I read, I was going, huh? What is... That was kind of my facial expression throughout the whole time I was reading this. It was all very weird, magically, kind of, I don't know. And when I finished reading this and I was looking through all of like the reviews on Goodreads, some people seem to really like it, and I guess I'm just not that kind of person. I don't know. I didn't get it. But a lot of people do like it. A lot of people really like this writer. I was just not a fan. Another collection of short stories that I'm taking off my shelf is Willful Creatures. If anyone knows like a book of short stories that is good, please let me know, because I have yet to find one. This is also like magical realism sort of collection of books that I just could not get through. There were a couple here and there that I liked, but for the most part it was just like meh. Next book I'm taking off is I Remember You, and this is about a couple who they're like, I feel like we've met before. I remember you, sort of a past life sort of story. Premise was fine, again, but the way that it was told was very convoluted, and again, I didn't really connect with their relationship. I didn't get it. It felt very kind of insta-love, but not, and just... I buy books because they're on sale, and I just don't have fun with them. And the last book I am taking off my shelf is The Fever. I was really excited to read this book. I mean, look at that cover. How, like, drawing is that? Like, wow. It's about this town, and this disease starts to, like, spread throughout like the teenage girls in the community, and they're trying to figure out like what's going on, what is happening. And I thought that it would be like a fun like medical thriller sort of book, and it just developed into a not fun time for me. It felt kind of anti-vaccine and delved into like teenage virginity, which I did not expect this story to go through. I was expecting more of like a medical like thriller, like something's going on, but it was just all very weird and like it's the swamp disease sort of thing. I don't know. And in no particular order, I'm just gonna grab my two stacks that I have over here with me on the floor, starting with Dear Evan Hansen. So this is obviously a novelization of the hit Broadway musical Dear Evan Hansen. I adore the music. I think that the emotions and the general storyline of the musical are good. And I love the music. Pascal and Paul are just fantastic lyricists and song makers, and they're just so wonderful. However, I feel like the novel really highlighted a lot of the not so good parts of the story, mainly the whole, you know, he lied to parents and the family of a child that committed suicide in order to create a family of his own. And reading about it, reading the story in novel format just made me go ugh, during the entire time. So while I love the music, and if the musical ever stopped by again where I live, I would totally watch it, I don't really think that I would reread this book. Just, it's in perfect condition. Beautiful. The next one I'm getting rid of is I Hate My Selfie by Shane Dawson. I have very conflicted feelings about Shane Dawson, which I will not get into in this video. But this book, just, I wouldn't reread it. It felt very skim surface sort of thing. It didn't really dive into a lot of stuff that I would have liked him to talk about. It just felt very old Shane Dawson, and I didn't really like it. So I'm getting rid of it. The next one I'm getting rid of, I think that's one of like two. Yeah. The second YouTuber book I'm getting rid of, sorry, is 101 Things That Piss Me Off by Rachel Ballinger. I actually kind of enjoyed this book. I thought it was fun, and it really highlighted Rachel's like humor and her voice, which I enjoyed. However, I really don't think that I would reread it again. So, well, reread again is kind of like a double, means the same thing. But I wouldn't read it again, so getting it off my shelf. Next one is Whistling in the Dark by Leslie Kagan. I believe I had to read this sometime in high school for like a over the summer book report or something. I remember liking it, but I don't think I would reread it again. Another Leslie Kagan book I'm getting rid of is A Land of 100 Wonders. Let's say waters. And after I read this book, I think I liked her writing enough to pick up another one by her. However, I don't really remember the plot lines for either of them, and I don't think I would reread them. If, you know, I don't really remember what happened at all. I'm getting them off my shelves because probably won't reread them. Next one I'm getting rid of is Melissa Explains It All by Melissa Joan Hart. I felt like this was just a one-time read sort of memoir. I thought that like the writing and the telling of the story was just okay, but it didn't really dive into the things that I wanted it to talk about, mainly her time on Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I wanted more. Next thing I'm getting rid of is A Separate Piece by John Knowles. I was so excited to read this because I distinctly remember like another English class, I think it was our freshman year in high school. We were reading one book and I don't remember what it was, but another English class was reading this, and everyone was like so excited and talking about it and while they were reading it, and I was so jealous, like, why is my class not reading this? I'm so mad. And then I finally read it and I was like, this is so boring. It is like boarding school story where I feel like nothing really happens, but things are happening, and it's not my jam. Next one I'm getting rid of is I Have Lost My Way by Gail Forman. One of my favorite books is If I Stay by Gail Forman. I just think that the storytelling is fantastic and the movie is great. But when I read this, I was very, very disappointed in it. I have a fairly... I don't think I've even talked about like what these books are about, but it's just not that okay. It's about a bunch of three strangers somehow getting into this whole situation together, and it's just about them trying to figure out their lives while helping out each other, and it was just fairly boring. And a lot of the stuff felt very forced, so getting rid of that one. The next book I'm getting rid of is Falling in Love with English Boys by Melissa Jensen, and it is about a girl named, what's her name? That's not her name, but I don't remember her name. But it's about this girl that goes to London, I think, to go with her mom for some sort of work thing. And the entire book, so it's told from her, and then like it's interspliced with like journals from this girl in the past that is kind of interwoven into the present storyline, if that made sense. Rock on. And the whole time that I'm reading this, I'm just like, why is she bitching about being in London? Friggin' the entire, like 75% of the book, she's just complaining. Like, woe is me, I miss my friends, this place sucks. I'm like, girl, you are exploring a wonderful place filled with culture, and like get out there and like have a good time. Screw it all, like do your thing. And she's just complaining the entire time, and I'm so sorry, but being in a foreign country and like living there would be so cool, so stop complaining. Like, it's just for a little bit, like relax. The next book I'm the next book I'm getting off my shelves is The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. A lot of people really enjoyed this book and talk so highly of it, but as I was reading it, it kind of felt very cold to me. It didn't feel very relatable. It felt like a therapist was talking to me, but not a good therapist. Not that I have a lot of experience with talking to different therapists, which I really should, but that's a whole nother subject. But it felt very cold, and it didn't really feel like we were working together. It just felt like, not talking down necessarily, but it just didn't feel like, you know, heartwarming or things that I could really use. I don't know. I think the way that the writing was just not something that I really related to. The next book I'm getting rid of is Trouble by Non Pratt. And it is about this girl named Hannah, and she gets pregnant when she's 15, and then she just makes friends with this guy. The story goes from there. It's very, very boring. It took me a really long time to read this book. Had a really hard time getting through it. So, getting rid of that one. The next book I'm getting rid of is The Secrets of Attraction by Robin Constantine. I actually have a couple of Robin Constantine books. I think I kept 2 on my shelf. And it just, like, if you are looking, excuse me while I adjust as I'm sitting on my floor. If you are looking for like quintessential young adult, contemporary, fun, like quick romance reads, her books are really wonderful. They're not like super, like it's just an enjoyable like 2 hours of reading. But this one was just kind of okay, kind of forgettable in comparison to the other ones that I read, so I'm getting rid of this one here. It's not like super bad, but it's just also not like amazing and keep it on your shelf sort of quality. Next book I'm getting rid of is Emily Giffen's Something Borrowed. I did watch the movie and I thought it was alright. I read the book and I thought it was alright. It's about this girl, I believe her name is Darcy. Oh, just kidding. Her friend's name is Darcy. Rachel, it's about this girl named Rachel, and she's just like the quiet, reserved girl, and then she has her best friend, Darcy, who is like bright and energetic and, you know, like attention seeking and gets everything that she wants sort of thing. And she ends up dating and ultimately getting engaged to this guy that Rachel has been in love with for a long time. And she just sits in the sideline sort of thing, and they get into this affair and stuff, and everyone around is just a horrible person. I feel like they're trying to either redeem Rachel, redeem Darcy, and redeem the guy, and none of them are very redeemable in my opinion, so getting rid of that one. Next book I'm getting rid of is Seriously, I'm Kidding by Ellen DeGeneres. I've kept this on my shelf for a while. Don't think I would reread it. Much like the Shane Dawson book, very like skim the surface sort of thing. There's a lot of filler like chapters in here. Like I think there's one where she just like makes random sounds and stuff in the chapter, because like when she's doing the audiobook, I guess it would be exciting, but in book format it's just like, this was a waste of 2 pages sort of thing. Next book I'm getting rid of is Right of Way by Lauren Barnholt. I have a lot of Lauren's books because much like Robin Constantine, it's very fun YA contemporary romance fun times. Like a weekend read, or like, you know, a vacation read where you don't really want to think too much, which is not necessarily bad. So I got this one. This one is about a girl named Peyton, guy named Jace, and they meet on vacation, but then something happens that tears them apart, and then they end up meeting each other again, and she needs him to get him to a place and they do like a road trip sort of situation. While I have enjoyed a previous Lauren Barnholt book, I think I have a couple that I'm getting rid of. I think there's 2 other ones I'm getting rid of here. I'm getting rid of Two-Way Street and then The Thing About the Truth. You can look up the synopses for all of these, but it's all just a bunch of like teens that, you know, fall in love, but then there's some big secret, or there's some conflict that tears them apart, and then they have to find their way back to each other. And while I am never above cliches as long as they're done right, I just felt like the things that tore the teens apart, or like the major plot line of the book, or the big like conflict or whatever in the book, just ended up being kind of flat once it was revealed. And ultimately it was just like, that's seriously the conflict that like tore them apart? That's the reason why they ended things? Like, what was the point? So yeah, getting rid of these, but they're really fun reads, and I like her writing style. I don't really like the voices of the characters. Sometimes it can be a little bit too much, especially the guys, because usually her stories are told in like the perspective of the male protagonist and the female protagonist, and sometimes it can really border on sexist. And not border on, sometimes it's like she's jumping really into it, like sexist voices and stereotypical voices that I just don't really appreciate. But like general storyline and like the way she tells stories are like, her pacing is really good. But unfortunately, nah, getting them off my shelves. Next thing I'm getting rid of is A Little Bit Wicked by Kristen Chenoweth. While I really did enjoy this one, I don't think I would read it again, so I'm taking it off my shelves. Next book I'm getting rid of is Bounce by Noelle August, and not a fun new adult read. Like, it was very boring and dull. Didn't really enjoy it, so I'm getting rid of this one. Next one I'm getting rid of is 15th Summer by Michelle Dalton, and this is about a girl named Chelsea who goes to like a summer house that her family and her usually goes to, and it's the first summer that they've gone there, and where her like grandma has passed away, so she's feeling a little bit different from previous summers. She goes to this bookstore and she meets this guy, and then they fall in love. This feels very like something that I would have enjoyed in middle school, but not something that I would keep on my shelf now. So I'm getting rid of it. Next book I'm getting rid of is Midnight Sun by Trish Cook. And initially I thought this was like a book to movie sort of thing, but I think this was a movie to book sort of situation, because it just didn't really feel like it felt, as I was reading it, I'm like, oh man, this really feels like this book was designed to be a movie. Like it's very like straightforward storytelling, not a lot of like nuance to it. So there's that. And then next book I'm getting rid of is Before I Fall by Lauren Oliver. I remember enjoying this. It's about this girl named Samantha, and she's like super popular. She's not like the best person in the entire world, but she ends up getting into a car accident, or she dies or something, and then she has to relive that like same day over and over again. So it's just kind of about that. So good at like synopses and summaries. I'm so good at them. I really thought hard about this one because I really enjoyed it when I read it, but ultimately, is it something that I would read again? Not really. So off my shelves. Next book I'm getting rid of is Barbara Kingsolver's The Bean Trees. I had to read this for either my freshman or my sophomore year. Maybe my junior year. I don't remember. Or my senior year? No, not my senior year. I think my junior year in high school. I don't really remember much of it, and I'm trying to get rid of books that, again, I don't like, so I'm getting rid of that one. Next book I'm getting rid of is The Book of Tea by Kakuzo Okakura, and it's, you know, plain and simple, a book about tea, but it wasn't as enjoyable as I was hoping it was going to be, and not really about the things that I thought. I really thought it was going to be a book about tea, but it really dived into other things that I was not expecting. And the next book I'm getting rid of is, oh, this is the last one, the last book I'm getting rid of is Planting Gardens and Graves by R.H. Sin. And this is a book of poetry. I thought it was just okay. I didn't really get into it and feel the emotions that I really wanted to feel. But the reviews are really great for this book and the other poetry collections. I believe this is a male that he has created. So maybe it was just not my cup of tea. Maybe this is just not the collection that I really enjoyed that much. So I'm getting rid of it. Goodbye. Oh, hi! Now that we're back, I am going to go ahead and share more books that I am unhauling from my bookshelves. I really want to try and keep books that I really love, or I have the intention of rereading sometime in the future, even though I don't reread books as often. I thought I would just kind of share it with all of you guys today. First book I am taking off is Prom Nights from Hell, and these are paranormal prom stories written by 5 extraordinary authors. One of those is Stephenie Meyer. Did I buy this because it had Stephenie Meyer's name on it? Yes, I did. I'm pretty sure I bought this when it came out during, you know, the Twilight craze. Twilighter fan in me was just like, Stephenie Meyer? Oh, I have to get it. And while it was a fun read, kind of scary and spooky at times, it's just not something that I would probably read again, but it's just a good memory of, you know, that time in my life where if it had her name or if it had anything Twilight related to it, I was a sucker for it. Get it? The next book I am taking off is Tell Me 3 Things by Julie Buxbaum. I do remember liking this book, but I don't remember anything else about the book, which worries me because if I really liked it, I feel like, you know, I would remember something, but I really don't remember anything. So it was still good, I feel. I'd probably give it a B right now. I'm taking these 2 books off of my shelves. It is part of the Daughters of the Moon series. I have the first 2, Goddess of the Night and then Into the Cold Fire. I'm pretty sure my cousin gave me these books. And then there was a used bookstore in my town that I would like sometimes find like the other books in the series, but I never collected all of them. And when I looked them up online, I was not able to find like all of the books. So I'm just kind of getting them off my shelf now. I don't really intend on rereading them or trying to finish the series anytime soon. I read these in middle school. I don't remember much from it, but I really did enjoy reading these books. And it's about like girls with like superpowers living in LA. which, you know, I can totally relate to. The next book I am taking off is Falling Into Place by Amy Zong. It's about this girl named Liz who dies in a car accident, and it's just about like her life and what led to that moment. I thought that it was fascinating, and I'm pretty sure that I really liked it while I read it, but not something that I would probably reread again. Next book I'm taking off is Rockabye by Rebecca Wolf, and it is about this girl that, it's a memoir actually, and she gets pregnant at a young age, and it just goes through like her life when she was pregnant, and kind of the scrutiny that she went under because she was so young at the time. I enjoyed this book. I thought that her like writing style and her voice were really nice, but again, not something that I would probably reread. The next book I have here is Water Song by Suzanne Wayne. There was a good chunk of time where I really tried to read books that were retellings of fairy tales because I love fairy tales. So I read like a couple of different like retellings of things like this. I'm pretty sure they have a couple of different retellings also with like the same cover and everything. I had a couple of these. Don't remember what happened to them. The next book I have here is, oh look! I have another one, Before Midnight by Cameron Doki. See? Ta-da! I do love retellings. They're so exciting. But I won't read them again. Another book that I liked but I probably wouldn't reread is The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. And this is about a girl named Eden. I think she's in like her freshman year of high school, or she's about to go into her freshman year, and her brother's friend rapes her. The story is told in 4 parts, so from her freshman year to her senior year, and it kind of goes through the trauma that she went through, and then like how her friendships and her relationships changed during that time. The next book I have is Love, Rosie by Cecilia Ahern, and this one is about like 2 best friends and their lives as they go through like teenagehood to adulthood, and how their friendship changes into something else. Very sweet. I have not watched the movie yet. Totally read this because I wanted to watch the movie. But it was like a good like one-time read sort of book. The next book I have is Elsewhere by Gabrielle Seven. I read this, I want to say, is sometime in high school or maybe middle school. I thought it was fine. It's about this girl and she dies, and she is in the elsewhere, if I remember this correctly. It's not like a heaven or a hell situation. It's called the Elsewhere. I don't know. It was fine. Not really a book that I would reread. I barely remember most of it. And the last book I am going to be taking off my shelves is Christina Lauren's Dating You and Hating You. It's one of those like enemies to lovers types of books, which is good for like a one-time read, but not something I would reread. Say it again for the people in the back. That's it for today's video. Oh my gosh. I regularly take books off of my shelves that I'm just like, it's fine. And then I either give them I give them to other people to read, because maybe they'll like it more than I do. Alrighty, that is it for today's video. In the comment section down below, let me know if you have read any of these books that I talked about, or if you have any book recommendations from me. Please let me know as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time with a brand new video. Goodbye.